Well, it's a walkie-talkie, and this I've been kind of keeping walkie-talkies to summer because we can then do field tests and go out with Mr. Chip in the body cam and see what we get range-wise. Where you can't do that in winter, and it's blowing a gale and the snow and that. So and it's dark, so we can't really do the full lot of tests. We're gonna get this tuned, and then we'll subsequently do an on-the-air test where I have it on this bench, because we've got an external aerial socket and an external power socket. So it's a Binatone LongRanger 12. Some people pronounce it Binatone, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to call it Binatone. So it's a big metal handheld with a 1.5 meter telescopic aerial, which the eBay vendor tells me is intact. And then on the side we've got external speaker. So it means we can plug it into our test set, external aerial, and external power, which in this case is battery charge, it says. I can't remember. I'll have a look at the circuit diagram and we'll see whether it can be powered that way. It's got a strange selection of channels. There's a 6-channel one of these, as you will know. Well, right, let's start. There's a 2-channel Ranger 2, which is the same as the Harvard 020, quarter watt output. And it's exactly the same circuit as that, and the Harrier CB1 and the Albus. They did two, didn't they? Do 2-channel one, and so on. You know, there's quite a few of those. Not to be confused with the Chiza and the D'Amico, which are dreadful. They do at least do 0.9 of a mile or something on the 2-channel ones. So then you did a 6-channel one of these, which is exactly the same case but 6 channels, and that one is channel 6 to, well, if this is 6 to 17, it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's 6 to 11, which is a strange selection of channels. I suppose both of them can include 9. This one includes 14, but it doesn't go to 19. You'd have thought if they'd have done 8 to 20 or 8 to 19, whatever. But it's a strange selection of channels. But unusually, for sets at a 6-channel, or even 12, this is synthesized, it's not crystal controlled. And it uses a synthesizer which was already obsolete when these were made. And that's why we're doing this video, because somebody emailed me, they've got channels down on one of these, and what's the stag? I said the chances are, if it's not a dirty channel switch, then it'll be data line blown on the phase lock loop tube. And I did actually look, and somebody in Germany is doing those phase lock loop tubes for about £6, plus about the same again in postage because of it being Germany. And that's less than they were new at the time. So actually, that's good. I mean, somebody else has got them elsewhere for £30-something, which is what you'd expect. So we're going to open this up now. Oh yes. Now, when this came, and it says on the, I'm going to read the eBay thing, and I'm going to blank out their username for modesty. I don't want. There we go. I don't want any of that, because I really do find eBay amusing when I'm buying things, and I think working means lights up. But this person goes on a bit, and you'll see. So, right. Inside there, it says on the back, LongRanger 12, 4 watt, 12 channel. Now then, 4 watts. Do you remember we did the Kaiser, which said it was 4 watts, and it turned out to be half a watt? Well, look what 4 watts means when you actually open the instruction book, which I printed off. What it says is 4 watts input, not output. So if that's pretty efficient, we might get 3. So isn't it lovely? Sales bull. They're great radios, and we've had 14 miles on one of these in open country. And I know next year when we get back onto range tests, I'm sure we'll probably get our 6 miles that are good. With the 1.5 meter telescopic aerial, the metal chassis means that your body becomes part of the ground plane. A bit like the range boost side panels on a realistic. Now, this is what I'm coming to. So I bought this off eBay. I paid £18.99 delivered, which is fine. I haven't got a problem. It looks like he had 2 available, so that's fine. So handheld CB radio, vintage 1980s, Binatone LongRanger, CB81 FM, fine. And what he's got here, he's got some photos, but he didn't show the telescopic aerial, which I wish he had done. it's intact, and he's right, it is, and you know, that's fantastic. We didn't show inside the battery compartment, and that was silly. He's put the size in. I don't know why he's put the size in. If you're buying one of these, you know it's huge. I believe this is in working order, as it transmits and receives a signal, albeit just a hiss of empty channels. The transmitted sound is very quiet and can crackle and hiss, but it does transmit. The unit has an external speaker charging an external antenna socket. The squelch works as expected. The aerial's in good condition. That's fine, absolutely. But it's a little bit of research, and he'd know this worked on 8 AA batteries. So when we open it up, I have to move the camera down. It's gone off my Richter scale here. That's the wrong camera. We're greeted with a 9-volt battery, which in the UK would call a PP3 clip. And it clearly says in great big letters, battery complement 8 HP7 dry cells. And that, in modern parlance, is AA's. It does say 8 rechargeables, but they don't work properly on 8 rechargeables because they need 10, and you can get 10 in there. So the battery holder's missing. So unless he's powered this externally to do his little test, he's going to run it from a 9-volt battery, and it's not going to work properly, is it? So, unbelievable. It says so. It says it's 8 AA's. The battery holder's missing. Buy another battery holder, get more money for the radio. So I've just pulled from stock an 8 battery holder, which goes in, and a 10 battery holder. If we were using rechargeables, you can get a 10 battery holder in, and then you're going to get the full range. Not rocket science, and they're not that expensive. eBay, I mean, obviously we're in trade. We get, you know, obviously we're using wholesalers. But what's this? BT03718. I think we got these from CPC. 114 G8 anyway. So we've got the battery holders. So when we do the field test, we'll choose whether we use throwaway batteries or whether we use rechargeables. And this isn't the first time that I've bought these kind of sets, or even the LongRanger 40, or those big Sertel ones where they take a battery pack, and you can buy a spare battery pack, can't you? You can put it in your pocket, and if the battery goes flat, you can quickly change it. It's good. But it seems to go over people's head that that's what goes in them. So this probably works better than the vendor thought. So they still need servicing, that's what we're here to do. I seem to remember there's a bit of a swine to put together. I've got to make sure that this stays put. It's the PTT bar that's got to kind of stay in place. It's quite an art. You've got to put it in, because that can move around. When you put it back together, you've got to put it back together like that, so that is falling naturally down, otherwise it's going to catch in with the mechanism. So we'll put that down, and it's in lovely condition. Changes glasses, and the synthesizer, which I can't remember, which is just here. I tell you what, we'll zoom in on that. So it's an MSM 5807 RS, and apart from them being my initials, I don't know whether that makes a difference. It looks to be a general purpose type of synthesizer, because you've got 2 crystals there which are going to be mixers, and you've got the reference crystal there. So it's going to be one of those set the receive, set the transmit ones. So it's going to be, we'll have to work out a way of doing this with the marker oscillator for receive. So the easier one will be transmit. And I'll tell you what, that looks to me like a crystal filter on the receive. We've got an LM386, so it's 1/4 watt audio. You can actually get this IC in different variants up to 600 milliwatts, but the -1 I think is the 1/4 watt one. You've got the MC3357, so it will use the onboard squelch. You've got what I would think, without looking at the circuit, looks like a 2SC2086 driver transistor on a heatsink. And then incredibly, you've got a Mitsubishi 2SC2166, which is capable of about 9 watts. And they're an arm and a leg to buy today. And be aware that when you see them on eBay, seeing as Mitsubishi have stopped making them about 20 years ago, if they're nice and shiny, they're fakes. And if they look a bit tarnished, they're probably real. They really do fetch some money these days. I see everybody now going to buy Binatone LongRanger 12s for a tenner just to recover the transistor. So I'll just look at that circuit diagram. Hand-drawn circuit diagram. It didn't come with the instructions, it's just something I've picked up along the way. At the time, I wrote to all the manufacturers and asked for service manuals, etc. And most of them had a fee and some didn't, and all we got back with from Binatone was a hand-drawn circuit diagram, which is better than nothing. July the 12th, 1981. So when you consider this was for launch date of November, there wasn't much time. I'm reading it upside down. To see 1975. Anyway, we've got something of a circuit diagram, and that is very welcome. But it's not good enough to actually use. That's test sets going through its little times tables there. So we'll start as we always do with the transmit, and we'll select a channel in the centre of this radio's capability. So getting back the lid, I think if we choose channel 12, 27, 71125. Right, so we'll connect this up to a power supply, and I will pause the video. Just before I do that, the surprise preset. Oh no, it must be there's another board under here. Sure, there's another board under here for your transmit deviation, or is that the LongRanger 40 which has another board? Yeah, I think I'm lying to you all. I'll go away, forget about that. So there must be deviation somewhere on here. I tell you, I've not been inside one of these since 1982. Coming back on to record, this is to help the person who said they've got channels missing. I am right, the deviation control is there. You don't normally, the two screws there, you don't need to take out, they're machine screws, but I have done so that we can look at the wiring. So we've got wiring here which goes to the channel selector's subboard. So if one of those is snapped or come off, that's another thing to check. So it's hardwired from the channel selector switch subboard to the main board. So if one of those wires is snapped, the channels would be haywire. Notice the board says Brainchild on it, and it has the number 8. No, it doesn't. It's 600043. So we're just going to pop those two screws back. That was just to show you that wiring. So it's a absolute pain that to do the deviation you've got to take the board out, but you don't have to take the antenna off. And of course once you've done this, it's never going to have to be done again. I mean, I could have checked it first, it might not have needed doing, because I wanted to show that wiring and I thought there was a subboard underneath, and for once my memory was right. Oh dear, that's going round and round. Hope it's So you have an electret condenser microphone, and that is the deviation control. So you've got this FM speech processor subboard here. So that's what that's all about. It's a lot of radio there for the money. It's a proper superhet, and with a crystal filter and that, I think these were underappreciated. Not everybody needs to have 19 and be going 19 a copy. People who are talking amongst their friends and sit on particular channels, they don't need all the channels. So back to what we're doing. I'll connect it up and we'll come back to you. So I'm going to make sure for a start we're at 12.4 volts on the power supply, and I'll tell you in a second why. It's a 12 volt radio, it's not a 13.8 volt radio. Oh no, I'll tell you what, we'll do it at 12. That'll do. If you wanted to try and power it from the charger socket, there's a diode in there which would lose you 0.4 of a volt, so it would be 12.4. I don't want to go through a diode. If anything, if there's any malfunction, it's going to blow the diode, and then I've got to faff about with the printed circuit board again. So we'll power it from the PP3 clip, and using the crocodile clip lead set we have on the bench. The one I like shorting together. We've connected our RCA adapter for the antenna. You notice that's the long type of one, which was done by Tandis for their walkie-talkies, rather than the short type of phono adapter. It also fits Motorola, you see. You can plug that in. The Motorola aero connectors were those ones traditionally on car radios in days gone by. So it fits both Motorola car radio connectors and also the phono type connector. So I'm going to connect that up. And I'm going to just... Do you know what? I can't remember which one is positive and which one is negative. So we'll just meter that. I certainly don't want to get it wrong. I could go and get a battery and then work it out. So let's go on that one. It's not that one. Let's go on that one. It is that one. So the snappy one is positive. So if the snappy one's positive, you can't get this wrong, there won't be any reverse polarity protection. And we have powered it up. So I'd already, before I took the knobs off, I already set it to channel 11, which is F. That's the soldering iron on the next level down, and we'll switch it on. The RX light is under there somewhere, and the squelch works as the vendor says. So we'll turn that down and we'll concentrate on transmit. I'll put it on the 3 watt scale. We'll switch on picture in picture so you can see that instrument. And I will press transmit. It must be on low power, which I think it has. It does. So straight away that's doing 2.5 plus watts. You know, this is actually doing more power as a 4 watt input radio from 1981 than a lot of brand new sets do, brand new mobiles do. It's actually doing it's doing about 2.3 right now. And I say it's not going to be capable of more than 3 because it's 4 watts input, not 4 watts output. And the reason they put that 9 watt output transistor there is so that it's a bit more SWR proof. If you had a transistor there that was only capable of doing 4 watts and the SWR was high because the aerial was not quite extended or something, it would soon be destroyed. Whereas it gives it a bit of a safety factor. They use that in the 1.5 watt realistic 1002. So I prefer to use our black one, but it doesn't appear to be on the bench today, so we'll use one of the ceramic ones. Just going to make sure before we start that these are relatively free. I don't know whether that's receive or whether it's the harmonic trap. I can't tell what the part numbers are. Right, so going to transmit. So it still is about 2.5 watts. But I have at least tuned it. So that's absolutely fine. It's 4 watts input. It's not ever going to be more than 3 watts. So that is fine. So let's see what it is on low power, because it's supposed to be 10 decibel attenuated. So we should be looking about 250 milliwatts with a considerable battery saving. So let's go into transmit again. So we should be, that's 1 watt. So that's half a watt. So it's about 170 milliwatts. So very good battery saving if you're using a radio at short range. So that's a transmit dealt with. So let's have a look at what frequency it's transmitting on, because it's going to be the fun bit. Because you've got a fixed crystal for 10.24, and then you've got 2 mixer crystals. One will be transmit, one will be receive, and we're going to end up upsetting the wrong one. I bet we are. We'll just zoom in a fraction, and we'll move the camera across to the frequency counter. So I'm looking at 27. I'll get back to, I've already forgotten. Is it 71125 for channel 11? 27,70125. So that's a bit out. And they do drop down with age. There is 70125. It's 70125. It's me who's. It's channel 12 would be. So we'll stay with channel 70125. It's hardly out at all. 7012. We'll just pop that up a bit. I will guess that the inner one is transmit. I am wrong. So there we are, pulled back up 70125. So it's the left hand one of the two with the radio facing. The inner one will be the receive one, which we'll have to check with the marker oscillator, which I'll come to. So let's look at deviation. So I'll key it up. We'll just set our meter. And I'll just get our little oscillator. In fact, I'll do a whistle test first in the general direction. Wallow. Interesting, I can't see any. So get the little oscillator out. Put that underneath where the mic is. Move the camera back across. Wallow. It's actually correct as it is. So that's nearly 2, and as I speak it's picking me up. So we'll take that off. Wallow. Yeah, that's right as it is. So on this occasion we didn't need to have taken the board out, but I wanted to show you all where that deviation control was. So I'll actually screw the board back together before we move on to receive. So we've got what we expect on transmit, and we've got correct deviation on transmit, and we've also got it on frequency. So I think that's all we can ask for. So I'll pause the video and I'll put the radio back together. Okay, so I've set up a marker generator because we have to set the receive to be on frequency, like we did with the transmit. I've set up our marker oscillator, and that's this pi unit, IF signal generator. Got it on 455 because it has a 455 IF and it has a 10.695 IF. Well, ideally we'd do this at 10.695, but this instrument doesn't do that. Now, can you hear? There's a musical note. It's high pitch, and if I adjust the crystal trimmer, you see we can't quite get it to dip. It goes back high again, high, low, and back. And that's because we're off frequency, because it's 10.7 and not 10.65. So we have to use the 455 one, which is not as easy to use. So I'm listening for 0 beat. And it sounds like it's there. Not at all easy to demonstrate. So we'll disconnect that. That's done. So we should be on frequency now. So if it all sounds garbled when we get to scratchy corner, now you know why. I really ought to make one which is 10.695. But we've got another signal generator on the bench behind. I could rig that up as well. There's lots of ways of doing it. So we'll put the tone back on. That's with the tone on, off. Now it's on. So what we'll now do is we'll start by doing the IF. So that's the 455 IF for the recovered audio. So let's just move this camera up onto the oscilloscope. We'll put a decent signal on, like an S9 equivalent. I'd like to turn the volume up. There we go. And that's clearly going to be, I'll just move the camera up a bit, the 455 detector. So there we are. That is peak. It didn't need adjusting, it was already spot on. So our receive ones are going to be down here, and I think we actually start at this one. So we'll move over to the cyanide meter. Not with that camera, we won't. And we're looking to be about 4 dB, so that it's easy for me to tune. Don't think we've gained anything there or there. Let's check that's not one we need to do with quality as well. So now I'm looking at the oscilloscope and the cyanide meter. Yeah, that's about spot on. So we'll now look at what we're doing cyanide wise, because it's not rubbish by a long way. So it's Binatone LongRanger 12 for 20 dB, 12 dB, 10 dB. So we'll start with that 20. Not all radios can achieve this. Well, it can. It is 1.7 microvolts. But take that with a pinch of salt because it doesn't matter. The important one is 12. And it's 0.44, and then 10, .38. So very respectable figures that. Okay, so we've done that. There's no squelch adjustment, so out of interest we'll see how that works. So I'll park the signal generator at 0.3 of a microvolt and switch it off. set threshold, and it's straight in. It's receiving off our clock. Do you know what? I'm going to have to start. I'm going to have to start again because it's moving the radio has affected it. Yeah, so it's going to 0.1 of a microvolt before it cuts out, and coming in at 0.25. So let's go to the other end. We're now on full squelch. So let's see when it comes in now. So I'm at 1. Oh, it's 3 microvolts. It's a bit wishy-washy that, but you know, it's not really being used as a base station, or we're going to use it as such on the air test. So what I'm now going to do is to put it back together, and with any luck, put it back together and have a flick round. Oh, I'll tell you what we'll just do though. We'll just what I didn't say is I did go through the transmitter once I'd put the radio back together, and I went to a lot of trouble to go backwards and forwards until I couldn't get anything further. So now the radio's cold. We're on the 3 watt scale. Full scale deflection. We're on the 30 watt scale. That's 5, that's 4. It's 3.8 watts. And I say it's 4 watts input, this radio, so it's doing a bit more than it's supposed to say on the tin. So that's a very pleasing result. Right, so we're done. We've put it back together. We're still powering it off the little clip off the power supply. We're on the aerial, on the roof aerial, and it's nice to have a speaker that's kind of size because it makes a huge difference. The only thing is you've got to know where your channels are, and we're on channel 12, I think, for G. So we have to look at the back. Yeah, channel 12. So if we start at A, A is channel 6 through to 17. So here we go. Channel A. 7, 8. It's not often we pick up anyone here. So I'll tell you what we'll do for a laugh. We'll go on 14, which is I. 1 for a Roger. I'll park it back on G, which is channel 12. So there you have it, the Binatone LongRanger 12 from 1981. I can't remember whether these were $59.99 or $69.99 at the time, but our sample is, when cold, is doing 3.8 watts, and yet the radio is only a 4 watt input radio, which means I've tuned that pretty well. So I think we're going to be able to, subject to the receiver being as good as it looks it's going to be, I don't think we're going to have any difficulty doing our scratchy corner test with Mr. Chippy when we use this at base station. We're going to have to wait till next summer to go on a field test and play with it range wise, but these are on a par with the realistic 1001s as far as range goes. And if you don't need the 40 channels, well, you're saving power, aren't you? So there we are. So Binatone LongRanger 12. I hope that was interesting because it's an unusual set. Thank you for watching.